We're on the record.
We'll call this meeting to order. This is the September 26th meeting of the Complaints Committee of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. Please call the roll.
On the call of the roll. Member Hinton, sorry. My vote sheets are a little bit off today. Member Hinsey.
Present.
Hinsey present. Member Wolf.
Present.
Wolf present. Chair Tesfa.
Present.
Chair Tesfa present.
Thank you.
We have a quorum. There are no agenda changes that I know of.
The next item, please.
Next on the agenda, item number 2, approval of the August 22nd, 2017 Complaint Committee meeting minutes.
Do we have a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Can we take that by acclamation?
Public comment.
Public comment.
Public comment, please.
Is there any public comment?
Yes.
On the minutes?
Oh,
No?
There would be no, on the minutes.
Could have called the time the meeting was called to order.
Thank you. This meeting was called to order at 5:38 p.m. Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, can we take this item by acclamation?
The motion is passed by acclamation with all members present.
Thank you. Item number 3 is general public comment. Thank you.
hi, Michael Petrellis. I first want to thank all of you members for your volunteer work for this very important body. You put in hours and hours of time at these committee hearings and then at the full monthly hearings. And I know when you're not here, you are also reading a lot of the documents that are submitted. And I look over at today's packet, and it's quite thick. And you really deserve a pat on the back, as much recognition as possible for this volunteer work. So that's what I want to say, number one. And number two, I'm really happy that we now have TV cameras in this room, and I'm hoping that the members of the task force who've been lobbying either the Board of Supervisors or the mayor to allocate the funding necessary to have the staff at SFGov TV flip the switch and do everything they need to do with the microphones and camera. I think it's really important that the full monthly meetings and maybe some of the committee meetings get aired on TV, because I think it will educate the public about the importance of this task force, and also show the public some of the problems we have as members of the public in obtaining public records. So I hope very soon that the meetings are on TV. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
My name is Francisco da Costa. What I want to say is that at one time we had members like Doug Comstock and Ann Williams who had access to a population more from the what we call the inner cities that they could go to so that they could exercise their rights before this committee. And what I see now is that this city, which has close to a $10 billion budget, still is lacking in this digital world by not providing, especially the inner cities, people that do not have too many opportunities. Of course, they work 2 or 3 jobs and they cannot come over here to watch what is happening at this Sunshine Task Force. And so today, some of us will be witnessing some of the deliberations. But some of those deliberations are coming before you because things have gone so out of hand when it comes to cultural competency, when it comes to implicit biasness, when it comes to discrimination, that we are forced to exercise our rights using the Freedom of Information Act. And not too many people know the process. Not too many people use the tools. And so you all should feel very privileged that you all represent San Franciscans when it comes to shedding light where there is abject darkness. This is a very corrupt city. And as I was saying earlier, I was watching the Ethics Commission yesterday talking about behest donations. Very, very corrupt city. Taking lots of money and doing whatever they want to, including our Board of Supervisors. So why have we reached such a stage? We have to ask the mayor. We have to ask the controller. We have to ask the city administrator. At one time, we had the legislative branch, we had the executive branch, and we had the city administrator who was independent. In 1996, the charter was changed, and the city administrator came under the mayor. My time is up.
Do we have any other public comment?
I'm referring to two successive Board of Permits and Appeals hearings. I want to recount to you what took place, which is horrific. Ann Trickey, who was the market manager, who I don't know personally, did a faulty investigation. She claimed she saw me on a Google Map search selling mass-produced items from a table on Market near Spear. I was not in that photo. And the photo was Market and Drum. She did another Google Map search and claimed that I lived in a Japanese restaurant at 129 East 60th Street in Manhattan. Her photo didn't depict a Japanese restaurant, but it depicted a 5-story building, actually a landmark building in Manhattan. She further claimed that a photo of a buzzer system in the building was a mailbox system, and my name was not on that. I'm a little bit alarmed by that because I feel my privacy has been invaded. If someone is trespassing in a building taking photos, that's a little alarming to me. Actually, it's the oldest French restaurant in New York. I don't know how this faulty, she came about this, but it pretty well speaks to the disorganization of the Arts Commission, particularly of the Street Arts Program. After the second hearing, Margaret Baumgardner of the San Francisco City Attorney's Office attempted to take documents that I left on the projector when I entered in the room after having gone to the bathroom. She had the documents in her bag. So I filed a complaint with the State Bar against her. And since that hearing, which has been about 10 days, my understanding, and through more documents, is that Ann Trickey has been calling my family in New York, harassing them. Some of these people are over 80 years old, and they're deeply alarmed by this invasion of privacy, and they've filed police reports. So there is no doubt in my mind that there are serious managerial issues both within the Street Artist Program and the Arts Commission. And as I said, prior to this hearing in the Mint Cafe, I saw Tom DeCaney, and I asked him, would he appear at this hearing today, since there are multiple complainants and different hearings against the Arts Commission. He just snickered and walked away.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Do you want us to use the screen?
Yeah, and I don't, can you get me back to the desktop?
Oh, yeah.
Back first.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Dario, and I'm a street artist, and I'm doing some research on the street arts program. It started in the 1970s, and I want to show you one of the films that I've done. It's bigger. Can't play it.
It might. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to postpone that. It's an iMovie, and it won't play on this computer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dario, did you want to get your other video ready on the internet? We can move on while he checks on that.
Okay. Is there any other public comment? Victor, what would you advise? Just move to the next item and then,
Public comment can be closed.
okay.
He had a future item where he had a different video that might have been online, but
Okay.
that wasn't regarding.
Okay. Seeing as there is no more public comment is now closed. Please call the next item.
Next on the agenda is item number 4. File number 17094, complaint filed by Michael Petrellis against President London Breed, Board of Supervisors for allegedly violating Administrative Code, Section 67.25 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Mr. Petrellis, begin.
Well, it says determination of jurisdiction.
Right, we would like to hear what you have to say, and then we can discuss if we
Okay.
manage jurisdiction.
And now I'm ready.
Thank you.
Hi, Michael Petrellis.
Microphone, please. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Okay, Michael Petrellis again. Let's see, it was back in August, I made an immediate disclosure request to the President of the Board of Supervisors, London Breed, for her block list on her Twitter account. And I have it up here on the monitor. As you see on the left, there's her photo. She's smiling. Under the circle of that is London Breed, and then a blue check mark indicating she's been verified by Twitter as the actual London Breed. Under that, it says President, San Francisco Board of Supervisors, District 5 Supervisor. You look to the right there, and it says Tweets, London Breed. Her most recent tweet was 7 hours ago. She's apologizing to Muni about something. I think it is quite obvious that the president of the board is using this Twitter account for official business, official city business. And I believe that I am entitled to her block list. I estimate about 3 years ago, might have been 2 years ago, I made a request to all of the then members of the Board of Supervisors for their block list. I got it from all of them, and it was at San Francisco Magazine that picked up on my research because it turned out that John Avalos was the supervisor with the most blocks. So it was clearly established back then that those supervisors would turn over their block list. So anyway, I might have the years wrong because Breed was not on the board at that point. So I made my immediate disclosure request in August and never received a reply. Never an acknowledgement that she received the request, and I've not received the documents that I requested.
Thank you. Is there anyone here on behalf of the respondent? No? Is there a motion to find jurisdiction on this matter?
So moved.
Do we have a second on that?
Just also add that the information is public. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
So I second.
Second, thank you. Do we need to take public comment on that?
Yep.
Yes.
Do we have any public comment on finding jurisdiction on this matter? Seeing none, we can take that by acclamation. Thank you. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Petralis, but actually I would like the other members to have an opportunity. Do you have any questions for Mr. Petralis?
So I have a couple of questions.
Okay, you can go first.
Mr. Michelis, so the respondent's nobody from the respondent's office here. Okay. You submitted an IDR. You did not receive any response?
Correct.
with regards
No
to the IDR?
response.
Have you received any communication from the supervisor's office since?
Not received any communication from the supervisor's office, and my recollection is that my request went to her personal email address and all of the email addresses I could find for her staff on her city website.
Okay. Thank you. If no other questions.
Thank you. Member Hinsey, do you have any questions?
No, not in this time.
Okay. I have actually a quick question for Victor. Did you receive any response from the respondent?
I have
when you
not
sent-
received a response from President Breed's office.
Okay.
However, there is one email in there from Mr. Ng with the Board of Supervisors. I believe he did respond stating that President Breed's office was closed during the board break. However, even then, a response has still not been received, from my
Okay.
understanding.
So you haven't received anything, but you did receive that message saying that they were closed for the break. Did they send that to you or to Victor?
I don't see it in the package, actually.
Did you receive that?
I
Mr.
did
Petralis?
receive it,
You did?
and I ignored it because it's
That's
not
fine.
from the
I just wanna-
supervisor's office, and the law does not say that the public officials are excused from providing documents because they're on break.
Okay,
Through
thank
the
you.
chair, and you didn't request the block list for any specific time, did you? So it wasn't like
As of a specific date.
as of a date.
Hang on one moment. May I have this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I don't have your complaint in front of me.
To answer your question, my request was for the current list of blocked profiles, the current list as of Friday, August 11th, when I filed.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to bring this back to us for discussion. This complaint was filed under 67.25, so Mr. Petralis should have received some type of a response within the close of business, the close of the business day on the following day of the request, so as of August 12th. And then, you know, the words, did the words IDR appear on the request?
My subject line was immediate disclosure request. I spelled it out.
Thank you, that's fine. And so, right now I'm seeing that the elements of 67.25 have been met by the petitioner, and I think that we could make a recommendation to send this forward to the task force. I wouldn't make a recommendation beyond that, but the petitioner should be required to, the respondent should be required to appear. Especially if they want to say that there's an exemption or the San Jose case doesn't apply or something like that.
Okay. I move that recommendation.
I'll second that.
Do we have any public comment on that motion? Seeing no public comment, can we take that by acclamation?
Yes, the motion is passed without objection.
Thank you.
I wish to make one clarifying point, if I may. The request on August 11th, which clearly said in the subject line, immediate disclosure request breeds Twitter block list. It shows here that I sent the request to 4 email addresses in her office, just to cover my bases, to make sure someone would see it.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you call
You'll
them?
be notified of when that matter is scheduled.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, item number 5, file number 17028, complaint filed by Anthropo against Kate Patterson and Arts Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.25, 67.26, 67.27 by failing to respond to immediate disclosure request in a complete manner.
Hi. Okay. So on page 26 of your packet is the April 11th response from Patterson Murphy. The citations she puts, I actually printed out, and none of them apply. Government Code 6253 is a 10-day extension. Here it is. Government Code 6254C doesn't apply at all.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are we using, I can't see what you're pointing to.
This has nothing to do with me.
We can just start her time over because you're pointing to documents that we can't see.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay.
So she referenced Government Code 6253. Obviously, she didn't read it because that pertains to a 10-day extension. Government Code 6254C doesn't apply because that pertains to personnel, medical, or similar files, the disclosure of which would constitute an unwarranted invasion of privacy. That wasn't the issue. That wasn't the subject of the document request. The last one, California Evidence Code 1041, applies only in criminal proceedings when the supposed informant is going to testify in the stand, and these would be discussions prior to that. So that doesn't apply either. There is no Government Code 6254K. It doesn't exist at all. So I don't know where that's coming from. Here is the disclosure of information under 1041 of the Evidence Code. It doesn't apply to the IDR. So even there are exemption requirements if an entity was going to testify at a criminal proceeding and the Arts Commission doesn't meet those exemption requirements, which are here. She cites previous cases in her letter. Sunshine File 15154 was withdrawn because it was an interrogatory. Actually, the Arts Commission didn't file any response at all. So that is not precedent and not even relevant to my IDR. 16083 in Patterson's letter to the task force on July 29, she cites a San Francisco ethics hearing which resulted in a violation of 6226 and 6726 and 6727. The basis was a notice of violation that I received from Howard Lazar claiming that I interfered with the duties of a staff person. He didn't supply any evidence to support his claim, and there was no harassment of a fellow street artist at the filing or at the hearing. This is another invention of Kate Patterson. Another file she references, Sunshine File 17026, which was withdrawn and no citations were given in the Arts Commission response. I made a mistake in the email address. So her letter lacks merit, and the reason why I'm so adamant about this is the endless allegations that are brought forth, which is a house of cards. It's smoke and mirrors. There's never any evidence to support their claims, and either she's hiding behind attorney-client privilege, and she's certainly not giving over documents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the respondent present? Thank you. And if you could do me a favor and focus your statement on some of the exemptions that you have claimed that Ms. Tribou has mentioned in her statement.
Certainly. So Kate Patterson from the Arts Commission. Basically, her request for information was in response to a letter that we sent establishing some boundaries. This letter was modeled on a similar letter that the clerk of the board also sent Ms. Tribou, also in very similar, setting very similar boundaries with regard to how we wished interactions to proceed, and we wished them to be cordial and polite. And this, I think, is now maybe the 5th or 6th time I've been in front of this body to basically state our reasons for withholding documents that pertain to harassment by Ms. Tribou of staff and commissioners. I really don't want, I don't know why I'm back here. And, the next one we're going to hear is exactly the same, but I feel like I provided ample evidence, and including a letter from the city attorney denying her request for such records. I'm not a lawyer, so, I have relied on the city attorney to provide language and the appropriate legal citations to justify cause for withholding those documents. I've provided those on numerous occasions. I've also provided detailed summary for this body of all the instances where this issue has come up and provided all the documentation, including the legal citations for justification. So I don't know what else to add at this point. I'll just say that, again, we're under the advice of the city attorney. We consider the safety of our staff to be paramount, and we do not see any benefit to sharing personal accounts of harassment with someone who up until recently had a restraining order against her from one of our commissioners. So I feel like we acted prudently, and we provided the appropriate legal justification to withhold documents.
Thank you. Is there a motion to find jurisdiction on this matter and to find the documents to be public?
So moved.
Is there a second for that motion?
Mr. Wolf. Bruce, do you want
I'm thinking.
Okay.
How about this? I'd like to second that motion, and we could hear public comment, and then perhaps we can discuss it with some of your concerns.
Adding to that motion, we find that the record is a public record.
We did.
Oh, yes, sorry.
That was in there.
Sorry.
Just moved and seconded. So.
Yes.
Can we hear public comment on this motion? Seeing no public comment, perhaps we can discuss.
So I'm reading through, and I've read through this file, and I was the original request and the document that it was based on starts on page 46, at the bottom of page 46. But you really got to start on page 47. You got to go backwards because it's part of a thread, an email thread. And this seems to be a letter from Ms. Patterson to Ms. Tribou, just outlining, some concepts and ideas there, and making a statement. Ms. Tribou then issues a immediate disclosure request to request all documents, emails, police reports, and written correspondence to support the claims listed in the unsolicited email below. Mm-hmm. So the question I guess I have regarding this is, First of all, the letter itself, while maybe public, I'm not following whether the request actually speaks to specific documents or specific records.
Okay.
And so it makes it a little difficult for me to, it's hard for me to pinpoint what jurisdiction we would have on it, because I'm not following.
I can give you some of my thoughts on
Okay,
that. Yeah.
go ahead.
The document that I started looking at begins at page 35, and it kind of goes backwards to the beginning. And in that letter, it's the letter that was sent. There's an email from Kate Patterson Murphy dated April 10th, 2017 at 10:37.
It's the same letter.
Yeah. And so there, she mentions on many occasions the tone of your emails have been exceedingly impolite. So I believe those are the emails that Ms. Tribou is looking for.
Okay.
And then when I was looking at the next item that was in the request, the police reports and written correspondence, those emails could fall under the heading of written correspondence, and then the police reports would be in reference to the restraining order that a commissioner may or may not have taken out against Ms. Tribou.
Where does it say police reports?
Well, I said the police reports that would be required to support the restraining order against you. It says, we are deeply alarmed by your behavior, which has caused one of our commissioners to seek a restraining order against you.
Oh, page 35? Oh, here, I see it. Second paragraph. Okay.
Yes, yeah. And so I believe those are the documents that she's talking about. I believe they are public documents. They may be subject to exemptions, which I'm not saying one way or the other about if those exemptions apply. But that's kind of that's why I was seconding Member Hinsey's motion.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
That helps a lot.
So we've heard public comment.
Motion for jurisdiction.
Can we take a vote on that?
On the motion to find jurisdiction, Member Hensy.
Aye.
Hensy, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Chair Tesfa.
Aye.
Tesfa, aye. The motion passes to find jurisdiction.
Do the members have any questions for the petitioner or the respondent?
I do.
Okay, Member Wolf.
Ms. Tribou, you filed this, I'm looking for the original intake. It's on page 24. It says, I've not received a response to this IDR. I've not done any of the claims in the solicited email. So your complaint here today is specifically on the response. Did you receive a response
No,
to your request for information?
No, I did not.
Okay.
On page 33, I've highlighted the things in question, the documents that I was looking for, and I included it when I sent the original IDR. And it from Patterson's testimony, which is incorrect, could not be modeled off a letter sent by the Board of Supervisors because I didn't receive one. Her claim of a restraining order doesn't exist. And then in her only response, and this really speaks,
I think you've answered the question.
I just want to be clear.
Yeah, I'm only focusing on the premise of the direct premise of your complaint, which was I've not received a response to the
Yes.
IDR. So you didn't receive a response by the end of the next business day?
I didn't receive a response at all.
At all,
I haven't
okay.
received it as yet.
That's all. That's all we need to know. It's what I'm focusing on right at this moment.
Okay.
Ms. Patterson. So on April 10th, Ms. Tribou sent an IDR. Did you respond to her?
Well, if you can look on page 39, you can see that on April 11th, I sent her a response basically saying that I've already answered, on numerous occasions, I've answered very similar questions, and I provided, rather than go into exhaustive detail, which I've done in the past, for the identical record she's requesting, I just provided the legal citations. So I did respond within the 24-hour period. I do want to say that on numerous occasions, I provided her copies with both the restraining order that the commissioner had for her, and in the next round, you can see that I also shared it with this body, and I've also shared it with her on numerous occasions, a restraining order from an individual in New York State. I have, again, if she wants specific emails that detail her harassing behavior, again, we've denied.
Okay,
She's asked for those.
I just want to focus on, to start with, I just want to focus on the request and the response.
Okay, so I did respond.
Because that is we have to start with that first.
Sure. Well, I responded on the 11th.
Okay, thank you.
Member Wolf, do you have any further questions for the petitioner or the respondent?
Just want to. I'm sorry, Ms. Patterson. In your response, are you stating that you have no responsive documents?
We do have documents that would be responsive, but we're withholding them because of the reasons that I've already described.
And, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
so you're citing California Government Code 6254 C and K and 6276.32 California Evidence Code 1041 as your reason to withhold public documents?
Yes, and this is consistent with all of our other previous responses to identical records requests.
Okay, and who helped you find those codes?
So this goes back like a couple years, and you have an example of sort of a summary of that process, but I believe Margaret Baumgartner helped us. It's all derived from a response that had to do with an identical request for the Ethics Commission. I've provided that to this body on numerous occasions. So it's basically repurposing previous language in response to identical requests.
To the Arts Commission?
I'm sorry.
Or to some other commission? Remind me who Margaret Baumgartner is.
So Margaret Baumgartner is our city attorney.
Okay.
And she helped advise us when we were responding to a
similar request at some other time in the past?
It's some other time, exactly. So
and you're claiming that this is an identical issue that you can apply these codes to?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
I don't have any further questions at this time. The sections that this was brought under were 67.25 for the IDR, and we've been able to nail down, requiring that a response come by the close of business on the day following the day of the request, and we've established the timeline for that here for the full task force to look at. 67.26, withholding kept to a minimum. That was another item that was portion of the ordinance that this was brought under, and stating that information that's exempt from disclosure can be redacted by the attorney or the employee, and that's what Ms. Patterson has made reference to, has been done from past work. And then 67.27, justifications of withholding must be very specific, and there have been specific ones. I'm not speaking to the validity of those. The application here, we can look at that at the full task force, but we do have those specific sections. So I think that we can make a recommendation on this item, that we have the facts needed to allow this to be viewed by the full task force.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to also note for the recommendation for the summary that we give to the task force that 6754 6254C and K do exist. That's the first one. Just want to make, because we want to make sure, and just, it almost reiterates what our legal counsel puts, but I think it's good that we recognize that.
They don't apply.
That's not the point. And we're not adjudicating anything here today, so.
And with that point, Member Wolf, I'd ask that the respondent make sure to include that in her statement when it comes upon us
Right.
at the full task force. Do we have a motion on this item? That section 6254C and section 6254K do exist. We're not speaking to, in the petitioner's statement earlier, she said those portions do not exist. I think she meant that they do not apply, but Member Wolf was correcting that those sections that you had cited do exist, and make sure that that is clear in your statement.
When you come to the full hearing.
Okay, so would you like me to write something in advance?
No, we're just saying that what I heard from Ms. Chabot was that 6254K didn't exist. What I'm just saying that it does exist, what she probably meant to say was that it doesn't apply.
Sure.
Okay, so I just, for the record, I'm just stating that it does exist.
Okay.
And I was saying that it probably repeating what our legal counsel has put in his memo, and also 6276.32 also does exist.
Yeah.
So I just want to make, we're all clear, we're all on the same page. That's all I want to make sure of.
Okay, so I just wanted to be clear, if you were directing me to provide something extra, I just want to know.
You're going to use, obviously, based upon what you're presenting here today, you're stating that your reason for withholding public records is based upon these California codes. So we're just verifying that so that we all hear it together and we all understand it, and that that you are going to present those come the full hearing.
Okay.
It's not a request. We're just affirming it, because we're just affirming what you had presented today.
That'll help prevent there from being unnecessary questions at the next task force meeting.
Right.
When you come before the full task force as to whether those code sections exist or not.
Okay, great. Okay.
Ms. Trabue?
I want to make it clear that I wouldn't have made this request if I hadn't received an email like that with a bunch of names copied to it. When I received it, I said, where's the evidence of all this? It's a vague, ranting ultimatum of sorts. And the claim of Patterson is that she's already supplied documents.
That's fine.
I don't think so, because they're not in the file.
Well, we're not going to adjudicate that here today, but we will, at the full task force, we will be able to discuss the veracity of whether those code sections actually do apply or do not apply.
I think an inventory of emails, police reports, dates, and times might be a good start.
Those documents may be public, but they might fall under the exemption. So at the full task force meeting, all of the members will be able to look at these specific exemptions and decide whether these types of documents fall under the exemption. We will not make those documents public if they...
She has not described what she has and what she doesn't have. It's just an ultimatum email of, we don't have to supply you with these documents under these codes. Well, what documents does she have? They're not in the file. I haven't done anything. So what's going on?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I move to recommend this case to the task force along with the jurisdiction.
Okay. Do we have a
Are we
second?
going without a recommendation?
Yes, without a recommendation.
Okay.
We're going to let them listen to the case.
Second.
Do we have any public comment on that motion? Seeing none, can we take this by acclamation? Thank you.
Motion passes without objection. Next on the agenda, item number 6, file number 17046, complaint filed by Anthropo against Kate Patterson and Arts Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code, Section 67.25 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Thank you.
Hi. So there were 2 emails that were sent. The identical email was sent on May 1st also. And I searched through my records and I found it, but it took a long time and I didn't get to the point of wading through it until like an hour before this hearing. So there were 2 identical faxes, one on the 3rd and one on the 1st. So I am referencing the same memo that I received with a more specific and detailed document request. And that was sent on May 3rd. Once again, the administrative summary referencing previous complaint numbers don't apply because 17026 and 17028 were not related information at all. On page 62, I'm outlining in the memo itself the information that is relevant to me and that I'd like to receive. And I'm explaining to you that is their fax number. And what did I get for a response? Not very much. On page 66 is the May 4th response saying, we've already responded to these requests previously, most recently on 4/10. Well, she didn't give much of a response other than we don't have to give you any information. We have nothing further to add, and we will not engage further in a back and forth discussion regarding this letter. Well, if I'm going to send a memo to various staff members of the Arts Commission of this nature, a kind of an ultimatum of how they're going to deal with me, you can bet that I'd be doing public record searches within a week because they're going to claim it menacing or the tone of a public comment is threatening to them or whatever filminess they want to express. If these events have been going on, anybody would have filed a police report. It didn't happen. That restraining order was long since vacated, more than a year previously. And as we all know, according to Kate Patterson, I was prevented from entering the building, which was not the case at all. So I think she's just done more smoke and mirrors that don't really pertain to anything. If she's going to send me documents, why aren't they in the file? So they are public documents. They are subject to disclosure. Emails, investigative notes, police reports, this long, detailed pattern of harassment, menacing, threatening doesn't exist. It's more fear and gossip.
Thank you. Do we have a response from the respondent? Thank you.
I just want to draw your, well, first of all, I just feel like this is the exact same request as the one we just heard, related to the exact same email. I did respond on May 4th. I listed all the things she requested. I said that we responded on 4/10 or it was 4/11. And I just want to draw your attention to page 69 because this outlines all the times that we've been in this very spot talking about these very same requests, and the attachments are not included as part of this packet, but I'm be happy to provide those again. I just feel like my brevity in the subsequent responses are because I have labored over responses to identical requests in the past. And, I just feel like it's an unnecessary expenditure of effort because they're perennial requests. They keep coming. So, when do we get to just stop? And so I would love some clarity around that, because here I am again, like 6th or 7th time about this, and I feel that it's the same line of questions. I feel like this body's adjudicated on this, and the Arts Commission has been proven to be acting appropriately in our response. So. I just feel like I laid it all out there in this email to the Sunshine Task Force on page 69. And I feel like this, again, is identical to the last request. So if we are moving this to the full hearing, can we consolidate these two? That seems like, an efficient use of time. Again, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I feel like I put a lot of effort into this memo to the Sunshine Task Force with this summary, attaching lots of examples, including the letter from the City Attorney's Office. So let me know if you have any questions or if you need additional information. I'm happy to provide that.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to find jurisdiction and to find these documents to be public?
So moved.
Second.
Can we take that can we get public comment on that motion? Seeing no public comment, can we take that by acclamation?
The motion passes without objection.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the petitioner or the respondent from the task force members? Seeing none, or do you have questions?
No.
Okay. For discussion, I would like to discuss the potential for consolidating this matter with the one prior to it. It deals with the same nucleus of operative facts. The last request that we heard, is contained within this request as well. And the last request includes 3 sections of the ordinance. This one includes 1 section, 67.25, but it is included in the last request. So that is kind of my food for thought.
Yeah, I agree. This is part and parcel of this same subject matter for the same document for the same respondent.
Okay.
For the same period of time, for the same thing, exact same thing, yes.
Does anyone have a motion for this item?
To be combined with the last one?
Both the consolidation as well as the moving it to go before the full task force.
So moved.
Second.
So would you like to combine them into one file or just call them at the same time?
I think we should combine them into one file, and the reason why is because one was done by email, one was done by fax.
Yes.
And so it's still part and parcel for the same request, for the same information, to the same respondent. It's just 2 different vehicles, and so for the same thing.
Okay.
I think it would be worthwhile to do that.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on that motion?
May I ask who made that motion? I was.
Me. It's Hinsey.
And then seconded by
Nice.
Member Wolf. Do we have any public comment on that motion? Seeing none, can we take that by acclamation?
That motion is passed without objection.
Okay. Can we take a 5-minute recess? I just need to use the restroom.
Yes. Give me a moment, please. I just wanted to restate that item number 17046 has been combined into file number 1728.
Okay.
We're taking a 5-minute recess.
5 minutes, I don't know.
Back on the record.
Thank you. Please call item number 7.
Item number 7, file number 17070, complaint filed by Michael Adario against Kate Patterson and Arts Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code, Section 67.21 and 67.24 by failing to respond to a public records request in a complete manner.
Good evening, task force members. This has to do with a public record that I asked for. It has, in my opinion, historical content. On March 23rd, 1972, the Arts Commission was given authority to authorize or authenticate street artists, who was a street artist, and that was given to them by the supervisors. At that time, we could only set up at the Embarcadero Plaza, which is now called Justin Herman Plaza. After 2 years, the supervisors would not give the artists any other places in the city to set up. So William J. Clark, Bill Clark, put a proposition, citizen proposition, on the ballot to open it up to everybody. Now, open it up to all areas in the city. Now, Bill wrote this proposition himself. It appeared on the ballot June 4th, 1974, and it had numerous people that endorsed it. Barbara Gelato, Angisto, Moscone, Willie Brown, Harvey Milk. It was incredible the amount of people that endorsed this proposition. Harvey Milk, I said him. Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Ruth Aswala, and who else do we have? Both Canner, Kane. This passed by 80,000 votes. Now, the way Bill wrote it, he put street artist as a proper name. He didn't put a definition of a street artist. And what happened when this passed? It passed by 80,000 citizens voted for it to go into effect. A day or two before it went into effect, Bill Clark had a meeting with the fire department, the police department, the tax collector, and Howard Lazar. And at that meeting, Howard Lazar said, "We have nothing to do with this. We only screen people who sell at the Embarcadero Plaza." This opened the floodgates to people that weren't artists. It went from 150 artists within a matter of months to 1,500 artists that blocked the sidewalk, that gave the people that didn't like this idea enough ammunition to say, we have to overturn it. Now, Bill was on the advisory committee prior to this, so he knew, he assumed that the Arts Commission would go forward with this, with the screening. So I asked for these papers. When I found out about it, it was quoted in the Berkeley Bar. Lazar says he has nothing to do with this.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Oh, I didn't have 30 seconds more? No.
No, well, I have many questions.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought that was the 30-second warning.
Do anything for the respondent? Or anyone speaking for the respondent?
Okay, Kate Patterson from the Arts Commission. So one of the challenges is all of this happened like 40 years ago, and the person, Howard Lazar, who had been in his position over 40 years, retired this summer. So I will do my best to fill in history. But the bottom line is that Mr. Dario has requested a document which we simply don't have. Essentially, the issue is around Article 24 and Prop J. Article 24 was what established the Street Artists Program. It is in the police code, and it basically gives jurisdiction to the Arts Commission. At the time, it gave jurisdiction to the Arts Commission to screen artists who would be in, specifically, Embarcadero Plaza. And when Prop J passed, it opened up the locations, locations around the city to artists, but it did not codify that the Arts Commission was to screen artists showing, outside of selling outside of Justin Herman Plaza. So consequently, the police department, which was also licensing artists at the time, issued a ton of licenses for artists, and they, it seemed that the program was overrun at the time. So at the time, Howard had checked in with the city attorney after Prop J was passed and was advised that because it, like I said, it didn't codify that the Arts Commission had authority to approve artists outside Embarcadero Plaza, now Justin Herman Plaza, that we should stay out of essentially screening artists who wish to sell in different locations. So this occurred, like I said, 40 years ago. it was probably a phone conversation, but there is no documentation that is like the proverbial smoking gun that basically proves whatever Mr. Dario is trying to prove. We did let him know that we didn't have the documents, and if we did, they would be attorney-client privilege, but we don't have any documents. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion to find jurisdiction on this matter?
Move to find jurisdiction and that the information is public.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have public comment on that motion? Mr. Booth?
Didn't we go through jurisdiction?
No, we did not. Your presentation is so we can figure out whether it is in our jurisdiction or not. That's the purpose of this hearing. Sorry, Madam Chair.
On jurisdiction.
Yeah. This document request should have been made simultaneously with the city attorney's office.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this motion to find jurisdiction and to find the documents public? Seeing none, can we take this by acclamation?
That motion is passed without objection.
Thank you. Do the other task force members have any questions for the petitioner or the respondent?
I do, but just a moment. I'm trying to find a passage here. Mr. Dario, what specific information were you requesting? I'm reading your letter, but you mentioned it in a couple of places, and I'm just not quite clear which information you're asking for.
I would like to know who gave authority to Mr. Lazar to go against all the proponents, all the endorsers that said this Proposition J was a great idea, for him to come in and undermine it. Who told them to do that? And what happened, at first they said they had no documents. When I brought this up at a meeting later on, then when Lazar responded to it, he said, I was there, you weren't. I can quote.
What does that mean, I was there?
Well, I'm sorry.
He was where?
Because Mr. Lazar, let me go back.
Like he was there at that period of time?
Yes,
Okay.
he was he was 19, this was 45 years ago,
1974.
Yeah.
May I? Because I would like to read what was stated here as the request, then you can just confirm to us if this is correct.
Right.
Okay.
I have here, please provide me with any and all documentation, including city attorney opinions regarding the San Francisco Arts Commission and or Mr. Howard Lazar's refusal to screen San Francisco street artists under the 1974 Proposition J.
Okay. Is that the crux and the focus?
I asked them twice. The first time, that's true. The first time I asked, they said they had no documents.
I just want an answer to the question. Is this the crux of your request?
Yes.
Okay.
So you want a document from 1974?
If there are any.
Or around that time? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. So, Ms. Patterson, I have a question for you. So, in your response, you state that.
Wait, can you tell me which page so I can just...
So, I'm on page 76 at the top. In the last paragraph, before sincerely, it says, in response to your request for any and all, for, quote, any and all documentation, including city attorney opinions, unquote, related to this issue, please be advised that the city attorney's advice to Mr. Lazar was and remains privileged and confidential. The privilege and confidential part goes to Mr. Lazar. It doesn't go to the city attorney.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying.
So, attorney-client privilege is actually the privilege of the client, and the client. It's up to the client whether the client wants to give up the right of privilege at that point.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So, but the point here is also is there an advice letter? Is there a document that states that there's advice? Now, you might be able to withhold it.
Sure.
Okay, but is there a record?
To my knowledge, there is not.
Well, but you stated here that there is city attorney's advice to Mr. Lazar. said, please be advised that the city attorney's advice to Mr. Lazar was and remains privileged and confidential. So
I believe it was a phone call. I mean, based on like what I've been told, again, and he retired.
who has knowledge of this?
Mr. Lazar.
And did he tell you about this?
So this now is like secondhand because now I'm dealing with the person who's sort of like filling in for him. And because we went over this, because I found it to be very confusing. And so she said that, and if I recall, I mean, this has been a couple months now.
I'm just trying
No, and I'm trying to give you an answer.
No, I understand. I just want to tell you what I'm looking for.
Sure.
I'm looking for if there's any additional documents or records that we may ask you to produce for the full hearing. I'm not trying to adjudicate it. I'm just trying to find out, are there other documents that exist? So we don't waste the time,
Of course.
all of our time.
I don't think there are.
If this was verbal information?
Yes.
Did you hear that there was city attorney's advice from Mr. Lazar himself?
Yes, because I believe, can I just check the date of this?
Sure. So the date of your letter.
So Mr. Lazar helped craft this letter. So basically.
When did he help craft?
Before he retired.
Before he retired, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So my understanding is that, and I can confer with my colleague, but that he had a phone conversation with the city attorney back in the 70s and got that advice, may or may not have written it down, but that was the advice.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I think at this point, because we're dealing with somewhat verbal or hearsay kind of thing, if there's a statement which is confirmed that there actually was city attorney's advice, and there's a positive statement that it's privileged and confidential, it means there's something concrete. And I think it's important to maybe have the city attorney produce some sort of record. It could be a phone record. It could be, they keep, like all attorneys, keep track of every hour and minute that they do things, because they charge every department for the work. But also, they would also have a copy of any advice, the existence of advice, and then they can come and tell us whether, now that Mr. Lazar is retired, whether it's still valid for being privileged and confidential, or whatever the rules are regarding that. Does that sound reasonable?
So attorney-client privilege, it wouldn't have been him in his personal capacity, but him acting on behalf of the Arts Commission. So should that exist, the attorney-client privilege would pass on to the agency. It's not to him personally.
Okay.
I think that under... I think under 67.21, which is one of the sections that this request was put under, the agency, in this case the Arts Commission, says they shall provide assistance or direct the requester to another agency. So in this case, Ms. Patterson-Murphy should direct Mr. Adario to the city attorney's office, is what I think. What do you guys think of that?
That sounds correct to me.
Sounds good.
I think, let me just ask Mr. Dario a question. Mr. Dario, you stated in your intake for filing this petition for hearing 6724. Why did you choose that section?
I'd have to go back and check. I believe that's the one not providing documents?
No, it's 6721. 6724 is information that must be disclosed, but it also describes various exemptions at the same time. So,
well, they are taking the attorney-client exemption.
Did I get that wrong?
Well, under 67.24, it gives various documents that would need to be disclosed, and under 67.24B, there's litigation material, and it lists like pre-litigation claims, records previously created prior to attorney-client
Okay.
privilege, like kind of documents that would
it
need to be
applies?
turned over.
Okay.
So that's where, I'm not saying that it does apply, but that's where I think,
Okay.
that's why I thought he was applying it. He could
Okay,
speak
I
to it.
just wanted to get some clarity that,
And if you read my page 3, Mr. Lazar at a committee meeting said to the commissioners in front of us, just wanted to tell you, if any of the commissioners are interested in the history of what the city attorney advised me to do and what the director of cultural affairs at the time advised me to do, I'm more than happy to speak with you about it. I was there, some people weren't. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
So I'm saying that he
Yeah,
waived
question.
his
I don't know if we
client
can compel somebody who is now not an employee of the city anymore to appear with regards to this. I've
I
not
think-
dealt with that before.
Right, but under 67.21, I think that we can direct Ms. Patterson to direct Mr. Dario to the city attorney's office, and if they have any documents that fall within 67.24B, but not under an exemption, then he could try and get the documents that way.
Okay.
Yes?
Just a quick question. Since you've already sort of put it out there on public record, how do you wish for me to direct Mr. Dario? Just like in an email, or is it this suffice? Like,
I mean,
I just don't want to miss a step.
right, let's discuss. I would think that she could send him an email saying she doesn't have these documents according to this,
You're saying that's what she should have done or what she could do now or should do now?
both.
So, okay, I'm not confident that we have the authority to do that,
To do what?
to direct unless we find a violation.
Okay, so it could be both.
So I would say, what I'm saying is I think the task force needs to do that.
Right.
Once they,
Right. But I think that we have the facts before us to make a recommendation under 67.21. That's for providing assistance or directing to another agency.
and 6724, the,
6724, I mean, she doesn't have the document,
right, oh, that's right. she
so
doesn't have it.
I'm not sure if B would apply
Okay,
in this case, so,
okay, it's good. I'm good for that.
okay. Are there any motions at this time or any further questions for the parties?
So I move to send this up to Sunshine Orders Task Force for a full hearing with the jurisdiction and that the information is public, with the added notation that we see that the task force look at 6721B.
And 6721 is listed in the complaint.
Okay.
So,
Great, thank you.
do we have a second for that?
Second.
Do we have any public comment on that motion?
Yes.
I take issue with this. You'll notice that that file is quite thick. It didn't need to be. The correct way that document request should have gone was it was sent out. It was vague. It was open-ended, so Patterson should have asked for clarification. She may have invoked an extension at that time, citing various reasons, maybe asking for more detailed questions. And then in the 14-day time period, a response would have come back. And that would have made a total of about 3 emails. Where this back and forth, well, we're not going to engage, is, of course, Kate Patterson's fault. She doesn't have it, but she does, but it's hearsay, but we didn't consult the city attorney, but we're filling in on hearsay for somebody else. This is pure nonsense. This was a simple thing where if there were a city attorney memo or if there was information, this document request could have been made simultaneously to both places at the same time. She could have directed him way back in the first email, Kay Patterson doesn't know what she's doing, and that's why there's this mishmash mess. It's a lot of blame shifting and moving around. It doesn't need to be that way. It's a waste of everybody's time.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments on this motion? Can you call the roll, please?
On that motion, Member Hinsey?
Second.
Hinsey,
Sorry.
aye. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Chair Tesfa?
Aye.
Tesfa, aye. The motion passes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a request that we ask DCA COLA to provide its advice on requesting or compelling a previous employee who has information pertaining to a case or who is central to a case that's being brought forward that may be historical, and if that person is still available to provide a response so we can make a determination and the requester can get the information in order to, for their purpose, either in person or in writing.
Okay. Victor, can you ask DCA COLA to draft a memo on a motion to compel an individual who's no longer an employee to provide information?
I will make that inquiry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Of course. Could you call the next item, please?
Next on the agenda, item number 8, file number 17096, complaint filed by Kevin Williams against Keith Patterson and the Arts Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code, Section 67.25, by failing to respond to a immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Williams, and I'm a retired senior contract compliance officer for the City and County of San Francisco, and have earned the distinction of having a mother who's been named by the Arts Commission as the savior of a historic landmark known as the Ruth Williams Memorial Theater, Bayview Opera House. And if you haven't come, I'd like to extend a personal invitation to you. However, my reason for being here now is to complain about Miss Patterson. Whether it is intentional or inadvertent, her actions as the, quote, communications director have been anything but communicative. I have made a valid written request, as I have done standing here before this task force of the members 12 years ago. There was a gentleman seated right where you are, Commissioner Wolf, named Bruce Brugman, a good man, editor and publisher of the Bay Guardian. And he spoke from that chair about transparency. And I come back 12 years later speaking about transparency in a building named after a family member, indeed my mother, and Ms. Patterson's refusal to provide the information requested. I made a request for 26 categories of information. I was given coffee and cake when my order was potatoes and steak. They have attempted to lead me in all other directions, implying that I needed to check with 3 different departments for the same information appertaining to $5.6 million in contractual activities associated with the renovation of the Ruth Williams Memorial Theater, Bayview Opera House. And what I received was $2.5 million in accounting, whereas another 3.5, there's absolutely nothing. I asked for board members' resumes, nothing. I asked for the salaries of the respective employees there, nothing. I asked for similar accounting with respect to how they do business in the arts and the rents that they collect, all pursuant to the Sunshine Ordinance, and all I've received is a dark response. And the reason I'm here is to ask for this task force to assume proper jurisdiction that it does have to address employees such as Ms. Patterson, who I have absolute categorical evidence, told employees and told the Opera House management not to give it to me.
Thank you.
The very information that she's supposed to submit, Ms. Patterson is obstructing.
Thank you. We'll ask
Thank
you
Thank you.
follow-up questions.
Sure.
Ms. Patterson?
So in my response letter to you, I provided a timeline and I provided all of the steps that I took to respond to Mr. Williams' request for information, which should be noted was not addressed to the Arts Commission, but was addressed to the executive director of the Bayview Opera House, which is a building that is owned by the city or the San Francisco Arts Commission, but it is administered and run by an independent 501c3. That 501c3 is not beholden to all of the same requirements that a city department would be with regard to requests made through the Sunshine Ordinance or requests for information. It is not required to be as transparent as a city department. So Mr. Williams cited that, he asked for the resumes of board members. The Arts Commission doesn't have those records, but I'm happy to go point by point through my response letter and go over the many documents that I did provide Mr. Williams. I also want to just point out that I made an effort to help facilitate records from additional departments who helped oversee the renovations to the Bayview Opera House, like the Department of Public Works, the SFMTA, and the Mayor's Office on Disability. There were parts of the renovation that were managed and overseen by those departments and not necessarily by the Arts Commission because we don't do construction, for example. So all the contracting that was through both the SFMTA and the Department of Public Works. So I did my best to help facilitate records, his record request by reaching out to colleagues at those departments to help sort of get a better understanding of the records that they had. In some cases, I was instructed that Mr. Williams should reach out to those departments directly. I made an email introduction. I did confer with the city attorney, and our city attorney is Lauren Curry, and she did say that that was all that I was required to do. There's some records that we simply just don't have. And then beyond that, staff and I spent literally weeks going through emails and going through all the records that we have in response to this request. So it pains me that Mr. Williams feels like I did not execute on his request because we absolutely took this very seriously. I met our obligations within the 14-day extension that I cited from the get-go, and I felt like we were very methodical in responding to this. So if Mr. Williams feels that there's a specific bit of information that is not included in this deck, and he can be specific about what it is, then I would be happy to help him track it down. But I feel like we did a very thorough job collecting records in response to this. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to find jurisdiction on this matter?
So moved.
May I respond? Do I have an opportunity?
We'll have questions for you. But right now, for the issue of jurisdiction and whether these documents are public.
I need to ask a question before we do this.
Okay.
Ms. Patterson, is the Bayview Opera House a city-owned building?
Yes, it is.
And is the managing organization have a city contract?
They get a grant from the Arts Commission, yes.
How is it that they exist to actually operate it?
So
who gave them permission?
So they get a grant to operate the building. They have a lease.
But who gave them the lease?
They get it with the Arts Commission administered.
So it's the city gave them a lease but city-owned building.
It's a city-owned building to an independent 501c3 that also receives operational support.
That's a contract.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll second. and that any of the information is public.
Okay. Can we take that? Do we have any public comment on that motion? Seeing none, can we take that by acclamation?
The motion is passed without objection.
Okay. Do any of the task force members have questions for the petitioner or the respondent?
I don't have any. I do have a question. Let's see.
And also, I just want to remind this complaint is under IDR 67.25.
Right. Actually, because the information. See, this is an interesting thing because. So, because the question is this under the Administrative Code 67, or is it under 12L?
Yeah, 12L because it's a separate organization.
Because it's a separate organization, but the question is whether how the request was made. The request was made to the Arts Commission. It wasn't made to the third-party organization.
The initial request was to the third party. It was to Ms. Okel, or the custodian of records, on August 16th.
Oh, okay.
And so I think that's on page 116. And so I think that if this...
Okay, so I missed that part.
If we were trying to find jurisdiction on this matter, and if this matter had been brought against Ms. Okel and the Bayview and the Ruth Williams Memorial Theater, Bayview Opera House, then we would look at it under 12L.
Yeah, and under 12L, though, the complaint goes to the supervising agency.
Okay.
And if there's not a satisfactory response, then the requester can bring it here.
Okay.
So there's not necessarily a requirement for the agency acts on behalf of the contractor in most ways, unless there's information they can't answer, then the organization will come. So it's appropriate. Okay.
What would be your thought on the application of 67.25 to provide information by the close of business of the day after the date the request was received? Because this request came in on August 16th to the Bayview Opera House, but then it had to make its way to the Arts Commission. So I'm not sure how they could comply with getting some type of a response out by August 17th, close of business.
I think and correct me if I'm wrong, the way I've read this is they responded in a timely manner, right? Did they respond by the next business day?
Let's ask Mr. Williams.
Okay.
No, their response was untimely.
Just come up to the microphone first.
Which date did you receive the response?
I don't recall the date. All I know, it was untimely, and it still remains unresponsive.
Well, we're not going to be determining whether it's a violation of the ordinance, but we're just trying to gather the facts. So, because you're going to have the benefit of having everyone that's on the task force listen to this case. So we're just trying to make sure that everything is in the packet so they can review the case. So
I understand, but there's a clarification that's necessary, because when I submitted this to Ms. Okel, Ms. Patterson interceded and said in behalf of the Arts Commission, since they are the supervising funding agency, they would act as that agent.
And which date did you receive that response?
I received that, I believe, the next day or so from her. I spoke to her over the telephone, and we had email correspondence. However, I have here among the email thread a letter or email from the city attorney's office stating categorically there's jurisdiction that they have to comply because of the leasehold agreement.
Yeah, we found jurisdiction. Yes. So we're trying to just find out. So under 67.25 for violation of an immediate disclosure request, we need to find out if the agency responded by the close of business of the day after you sent the request. So we need to find out the exact date that you heard from Ms. Patterson Murphy when she interceded. Can you point to where in the packet?
I believe it was the 17th.
Okay.
So let me just ask. It's let's see.
So
page 122 at the bottom. No, that's from Mr. Williams.
See, on page 120, I see a response from Ms. Patterson Murphy, but it's not until August 20th, so
Right. Oh,
August
that's right.
21st.
Right.
So I just want to confirm. can you
What
look
page are you?
On, in the packet, it is at the bottom, it says it's page 120.
120.
So is that the first time that you heard from Ms. Patterson Murphy? Mr. Williams, is your
Yeah, I
packet?
spoke to her on the telephone, but this is the email.
So this
that-
is the first writing that you received?
Yes, it's the first writing, but we spoke.
No,
I believe we
okay.
spoke on
Then,
the telephone.
Ms. Patterson Murphy, can you point to a different first response in the packet, please?
So I need to find his initial letter to Barbara Ockel, which was addressed to her. Then he called me on the phone the very next day, and we had an email exchange, which you should have, where I basically said, "Do you want? Is this to us? Do you want us to reply?" To which he confirmed, and the same day I invoked the extension, and I believe it is all outlined in the letter. So what the page 120 was absolutely not the first time he heard from me. This was in response to a subsequent IDR where he wanted me to prove to him that I had reached out to other departments on his behalf to try to procure information, which I did. So this is a very large step.
Okay, so the August 17th email is the one you're talking about.
Yes. So the Bayview Opera House received a request for information on August 16th and on August 17th.
Can you just look at page 184 of the packet?
Okay, I'm looking at 109, but sure, 184. Okay, so this confirms what we
Okay, so
discussed.
that's your first.
That's my first, yep.
Thank you.
And then the 14 days was that day going forward.
Do the members have any other questions at this time?
I just want to confirm, I just want to double check in our legal counsel's memorandum. Yeah, he doesn't mention 12L in here. I'm a little concerned about which processes with regard that we should be focusing on with regards to purely 12L and or 67, because this begins at 12L. The question is, does it end in 67? And I don't have, there's no advice, at least in the memorandum about that.
Is this on the question of jurisdiction or?
No, this is not, no, we have jurisdiction.
Right, we've already-
Whether it's 12L or 67, it's within the jurisdiction of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. The question is what rules apply on response and production of information? Is the burden on 12L, the burden on 67?
Okay. So
And that's a question that I think we need, the task force is going to need clarification.
Okay. So what I'm hearing right now is that we do not have. So under 67.25, you need to receive a response one business by the end of the business day after you sent your request. You sent your request on August 16th, which means by the end of August 17th, you needed to hear back from the responding agency. In this case, you did receive a response. We're concerned that there are other portions of city ordinance that might be implicated here that you might have a case under. Because right now, 67.25, you received a response by the end of the next business day. So rather than dismissing this case or not letting it move forward, I think that we should continue it to the next meeting and ask the city attorney to also brief the issue of 12L so that we can also consider that issue. Do you think we need to amend the item?
Jurisdiction? No, not in jurisdiction or public.
Not on jurisdiction, but amend the complaint at all.
I think the question is out there. I'm pretty confident that this is a 12L issue. I'm a little, I'm just, because of what has transpired after, I'm just a little unsure whether it triggers a 67. At that point,
Right.
I would like to get some clarification on that.
And at this time, I haven't had a chance to look at 12L, so I wouldn't want to
It would be.
get rid of this case because I haven't had a chance to
Right,
hear
so
it.
it's, just so you know, it's section 12L.5B under dispute resolution, and it's pretty explanatory. It's explanatory as far as the big blocky process, like step 1, step 2, but there's no real granularity as to how some of these things should be dealt with. It does say that following a consideration by the city agency or the department that's the supervising agency for the city contractor, that following such a consideration and recommendation, the member of the public or the nonprofit organization may seek an advisory opinion concerning the request or complaint from the Sunshine Task Force, which that task force shall be authorized to provide, provided, however, that failure to seek such an advisory commission opinion from the Sunshine Task Force shall not prejudice the right of the member of the public and or the nonprofit organization to obtain a review of the city agency or department's recommendation by the Board of Supervisors as provided within. Because it deals with kind of city contracts, it adds a different, it adds a hiccup in a way.
Do you have a proposal on how to move forward?
I want to defer to legal counsel's advice on how to proceed.
So would your proposal be to continue this item and make a request to DCA COLA to write a memo on that?
I don't think we need to continue the item here in committee. I think that, the information that was asked, the information was, there was response. There was, I think that all these items, there's some information, but not all information. There was active participation to try and engage other departments. I think there's enough process here going on than just no response at all, okay, that I think the focus of which body of law applies doesn't really pertain to what we need to do here today.
Are there any facts that would support that are not in the record at this time? Or are all of the facts in the record at this time?
I don't know. That we would have to go through Mr. Williams' 23 requests. That would be it, and then determine whether Ms. Patterson provided them or not. The under 12L, we can provide an opinion. Okay. It wouldn't. I don't know that it would necessarily be an order of determination per se.
Okay.
So I need advice because it's been a long time since I had a 12L case. So
Right.
I think just to get some clarification from legal counsel on how to proceed, I think is important. I think we have enough information to send it up forward. I don't see that there's anything missing except for what has not been, documents that have not been responded to. But I don't doubt that the information does exist in whole or in part. So that's why I'm saying we shouldn't hold up moving this to the full task force.
Okay. So the focus here would be on the portion of 67.25, not on the failure to respond in a timely manner, but in a complete manner.
In a complete manner.
Okay, because the timely issue, you can kind of see from the timeline
Yes.
that we have that, but it's the complete portion of it.
Right, and then there's the 6721B of whether there was enough assistance or not to get the information that the agency may or may not have.
Okay, and so
'Cause-
though the petitioner did not bring up that section,
Oh, okay.
there are facts in the record to speak to that matter. Ms. Patterson Murphy provided the timeline of how she contacted the different agencies. So,
I'm not citing that there was a violation in that, but just the fact that other agencies are involved and that whether the Arts Commission or who the responsible agency had provided assistance.
Do you think that we need to ask for those other agencies to be here, or is that a separate complaint that the petitioner needs to bring?
So, Ms. Patterson, let me ask you a question about that. So, based upon a number, in some of your responses, you state that some of the documents do not reside with you, correct?
Yes. So, for example, there were, like DPW did all the contract bidding and procurement, which I actually did forward to Mr. Williams because they were emailed to me because he was meant to.
Right,
so that's one example. But then there's some very specific things related to the operations of the Bayview Opera House that we don't have. Like I said, for example, like the resumes of the board members, for example, or the minutes of the board meetings. Like those are things the Arts Commission wouldn't have.
Why not?
Because it's an independent 501c3. We don't keep those records.
No, there is a requirement for certain kinds of documents from nonprofits.
Sure.
If you read 12L,
right,
this is applicable, it's
right,
very clear what needs to be provided by the nonprofit organization.
Right. So the city attorney, we did ask that. The city attorney said like contracts, lease agreements, but minutes of the board meeting, I don't think were part of that, because otherwise we would have given them.
It's in 12L, read it.
It says.
Yes.
I believe 12.0 references financial data, not minutes.
Yeah.
Nonprofit organizations supposed to have 2 public meetings a year and be made up for the general public. And the minutes, the agenda and the minutes, it's very specific how they're to be posted and when they're supposed to be drafted.
Okay, well, I can look into that, but that did not come up when we were doing this.
Yeah, I know this very well because I'm president of a board of a nonprofit that has a city contract.
Sure.
So I've had to train my board and my staff on this. So I'm pretty clear.
So I'm happy to look into that. I mean, that didn't, like I said, I feel like we left no stone unturned, so that didn't come up, but I will look into that because it was my understanding that it was just things that were like, contracts, and.
Yeah, so, there's the most recent budget.
Yeah, we provided that.
There's the most recent filed state and federal tax returns.
We did that. They got that.
Okay, all that. But there's also there's a section 12L.4 is public access to meetings, and there's a requirement that agendas be posted 30 days in advance of a public meeting. Things like that. It talks about closed sessions, talks about public comment and notice, and it's supposed to be posted where notices of meetings for the Board of Supervisors are posted, and to the San Francisco Main Library Government Information Center.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, but I'll look into that.
Okay.
So, excuse me.
All right, I just read through 12L.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that didn't come up at all through this, so I just wasn't aware of it.
That's fine. I just want to know.
And it's in the Sunshine Ordinance, or what specifically? Where it specifically is that?
It's in the Admin Code 12L.
Okay.
And so we would recommend that you speak to your city attorney on that matter and just be prepared when this matter comes before the full task force to speak to that.
And if I'll verify with her, and we will provide those records between now and then.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excuse me, may I make a clarification? Because there's a misrepresentation.
Okay.
There's a misrepresentation that Ms. Patterson is being allowed to get away with. I'm feeling very much like Ms. Trabeau.
Briefly, sorry, this ends at 7:30. So
I understand, and I'll be very brief. She's done a lot of talking. I'd just like to point out that I requested the salaries of the people who are getting paid by the Arts Commission $500,000 in grants a year. I also asked what the rents were for the very building that's named after my mother. I asked for the office across the street that they're renting a new place, that they just recently moved in since the renovation was taking place. I didn't get that. I asked for the current articles of incorporation. I didn't get that.
Sir.
That is all within the realm of city business, and she told them not to give me the information because they are a nonprofit. I submit to you, commissioners, it's in the rules. A city employee is not supposed to interfere and tell another nonprofit or any entity not to disclose public records. The city attorney's office does not work for a city employee, only in the case of litigation. They work for the people. They serve at the pleasure of the people. I happen to be one here, 60 years.
Thank you. And, so we're going to go through some of these items you've mentioned, the 23 items. We'll be going through those specifically before the full task force.
Okay.
So you will have an opportunity to go through those line by line. We're not
I
saying
look
now
forward
that
to
you
it.
received everything or anything like that. So
Our purpose is only to make sure we got all the information so that the full task force has the ability to have the full breadth of stuff. So nothing will be overlooked, and everybody will be able to ask any question about any of the items that you requested.
Yes, mine is the search for the truth.
Thank you, sir.
And keep it in the daylight.
Thank you.
Not in the dark.
Do we have a motion at this time?
I move to send this up to the task force with the request from DC COLA to advise us on how to proceed under whether it's under 67 or 12L or both.
Yes.
Second.
Do we have any public comment on that motion?
This is classic Kate Patterson. In this file, there are no documents. She has not never come into a hearing room with a file saying, I provided these documents on this day by this method. You have the burden of various people who are complainants saying, I didn't get the document, she's making up stories, there should be documents relative to these claims. There's a problem here. And it's not a question of education. It's not a question of, oh, well, I consulted the city attorney. I don't think she did. I think what's going on here is that she's making up her own subjective decisions about what she's going to do and how she's going to go forward. That was shocking testimony of a San Franciscan whose mother's name is on a building, who knows full well the law and what's going on, and he has come up with the same subjective opinion that I've had for many years. I can't stand up here 10 years from now and say, I didn't stalk anybody, I didn't threaten anybody, I didn't make menacing remarks. I can't do it. I think you're sick of hearing it, and I'm sick of saying it. It's weird. And you people got to do something. You got to shut this lady down.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
I had to go to the state court.
Sir? You can start the time.
So this matter is very dear to me because one of the concepts that y'all have to understand is the Baby Opera House was built in 1888. It's not an ordinary landmark. And when we ask for certain things to be provided, we get somebody who is beating around the bush. And I've been listening to the testimony. Now we have to put an end to that. It's very easy to say, we are here just to review this point and this point so that, we can move this to the full task force. But this committee, because y'all are vetting, y'all are discerning, y'all are filtering, should not be allowed to listen to lies. When somebody lies, then what happens, some of the lies filter before the entire Sunshine Task Force. And I will be attending that meeting because that's the meeting where I can speak with full force. But let me tell you, as I leave this place, because it's close to 7:30, I'm disgusted at this woman and her despicable attitude. Such people who have an attitude that they can say whatever they want to say and invoke on the name of the city attorney and think that they can commit crime in broad daylight, we're going to put an end to it. And you notice she left the room. She shouldn't have left the room. I did not leave the room. And even though we are from the Bayview, I also noticed that our agenda item was put last. So we had to sit our asses over there till 7:30 for a long time. Maybe you could look at that the next time and put our agenda item first. Thank you very much.
Is there any other public comment on the motion?
Mr. Williams, don't leave yet?
Yeah, we're going to have instructions for you, so if you don't mind. Thank you.
I find it somewhat shocking, but not surprising, that the Arts Commission gives hundreds of thousands of dollars to an organization, and they don't even know who they're giving it to. They don't have the resumes. They don't have the budget. They don't have the minutes. This is ridiculous. This is how they get into problems, and they've gotten into problems over and over again. If you go back and look at what the civil grand jury looked at them, some of those things have not been changed. They gloss them over. They gloss over something. They get $800,000 from the symphony that the civil grand jury said, don't do it anymore. So what they did was they changed it now to a gift. So this is what this Arts Commission does. I think the Arts Commission is corrupt. It is a kleptocracy. It's run by thieves. And we see it over and over again. And you're going to see it over and over again, unfortunately. But I think it has to be brought to the next level. I think they have to be held accountable because I don't believe what they say. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this motion? Can we call the roll on this motion?
On the motion, Member Hensy.
Aye.
Hensy, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Chair Tesfa.
Aye. And I would also like, for Mr. Williams, if you receive any other information from the agencies, if you could update Victor with that about a week before your hearing, and then we can have the updated list and work through the 23 items accordingly.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. And Victor, I'd just like to compliment him for the efficient and expedient processing of this. I know about it from way back, and this by far is I was shocked at how fast you are at getting this thing before this.
Thank you for your feedback. That's great.
You have a reputation that precedes you for doing fine work.
Thank you.
And in behalf of everyone, I want to thank you all for listening.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Good
Can I
night.
also ask that you provide, if it's possible, provide a specific list of items you believe you are missing?
Sure will. That's easy.
Simple, a very simple list format, just so.
So it'll be clear to them.
Yeah.
Yes.
It helps expedite it. Okay.
Yeah,
I've
good.
been in compliance for 30 years.
So you know.
I know exactly what you.
Okay.
Well, we'll
Okay,
see you soon.
perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Good
you
evening.
so much. I
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Next on the agenda is item number 9, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items.
None? Yep. Nope. Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you all.
The meeting is adjourned without objection.
Thank you. Thank you.